the spot to finally let you go, but I can't. You know I can't. Your memories hit hard like a boxcar train. I can't drink away the hurt, can't bury this pain. The Lord knows I can't let go. The good Lord's always true. His compass always points me back to you. Like those summer winds up there in Cheyenne, the way it feels to hold on to your hand, feeling that love, knowing someone's up above, looking after little you and me. The sun's gonna shine in Miami, lets me know that you're the only light I see in a world full of darkness. Don't have to feel heartless, I know who you're gonna be. The woman that I love, you're the only one it's meant to be. Sent that bourbon 'cause you knew I was hurting, just trying to help me get by, but you know I won't. You know I won't. Truck's getting dirty, but you know I like it clean, just like that story that became you and me. It just ain't. No, it ain't. Still love you anyway, 'cause the good Lord has his way. Like those summer winds up there in Cheyenne, the way it feels to hold on to your hand, feeling that love, knowing someone's up above, looking after little you and me. The sun's gonna shine in Miami, lets me know that you're the only light I see in a world full of darkness. Don't have to feel heartless, I know who you're gonna be. The woman that I love, you're the only one it's meant to be. It's meant to be.
Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Monday night edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Mr. Samuel Deeds, how are you, sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Got a few phone calls today, a couple texts today. I'm going to have a busy Marine Corps birthday veterans weekend coming up. We've got, a jump on Thursday. Then right after that, I do some PR stuff for the Mogadishu Mile. Off on Friday. Jump on Saturday for UC for the Bearcats. Jump on Sunday in Philadelphia for their Veterans Day parade, and then a jump on Monday in Middletown for their Veterans Day parade. So yeah, it looked like a busy weekend for me. How about you?
Yeah, you're definitely busy. I'm super busy. So I got to talk with somebody earlier today that's going to help me with my next step of my VA disability claim, which is something cool. He's been doing it for 20 plus years. And I was doing TikTok live earlier, and he just happened to stumble into my live, and me and him got to talk, and he got him up on the screen, and what was going to be a 30-minute live wound up being almost a 2-hour live on TikTok earlier today. And then the conversation just grew. We had, at one point, I think we had over 80 veterans or 80 people in the chat. And then the 5 or 6 people that were up on the screen. And it was a really great conversation. And then we got our 3rd annual Veteran and First Responder Suicide Awareness Concert coming up on November 9th. Starts at 11 a.m., goes to 11 p.m. And I'm super excited about that. We got Marine Corps Veteran Theory. He's going to be our headliner. And then we do have some other bands throughout the day that are veterans. There's a few that are not veterans, but most of them are veterans. So the cool thing about this is they all donated their time. We offered, to pay them money to come play, and they're like, no, we're going to come donate our time because this is for a good cause.
Absolutely. I mean, we discussed it all the time with, the number 22, where it originated, what can we do to reduce it? Make sure you're reaching out to somebody. You started the Be Someone Stranger. You're not alone. We got your 6. I mean, everything that we talk about every single podcast, every single day. And, it's great that these guys and girls are volunteering their time to come out for their brothers and sisters.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're not grabbing like, your Craig Morgans and stuff like that, because, of course we'll have to pay them. Now some of them will come do it for free, but most of the time you got to pay. And I don't mind paying an artist for their time because, that's their business. Yeah. But when they said, hey, I just either take that money and donate it to the organization that you're going to be giving them money to for the charity, which this year is Camp Hero, Kentucky, out of Berea, Kentucky, which is just south of Lexington, and which is an amazing organization. What's up, James Thornton? And and then we got the Veterans Day Parade coming up here in Louisville. All kinds of things.
You guys got Doc Ballard coming in as your Grand Marshal. Man, he's a great guy. Former Navy corpsman, earned the Medal of Honor during Vietnam, and then got out of the Navy and went to the Army and got promoted all the way to Colonel. So I mean, his story alone is inspirational, and then of course everything that led to the medal and just being around him. He's a good guy, and his son is actually a Marine. I think he's still serving. I think he's a sergeant now.
Heck yeah. And then, doing this podcast, we got some great episodes. Like this week, last night we had the vet life team, the veteran life insurance team on last night, just launched November 1st. We as veterans know how hard it is to get life insurance, as for being veterans, because of our VA ratings and stuff like that. If you got PTSD, most life insurance companies won't touch you. If you have suicidal thoughts, a lot of people won't touch you. If all kinds of things, going into that whole aspect of things. So vet life insurance focuses strictly on the veteran. They don't care about Joe Blow civilian. They care about getting that veteran life insurance. So go check out the veteranspot.com and get connected with them and look into getting life insurance for you.
But it's the active duty guy too,
Yes.
and girl to get them started early, because it's not just the life insurance; it's the benefits that they have that you can use while you're still alive. It's not that death benefit still,
Right.
So that anybody that is serving or has served, go check out the veteranspot.com, and they've got a bunch of stuff that they're offering to veterans, their families, and then also the active duty personnel.
Yeah, because like if you get in a tight spot, let's say you just got out of the service, right? You're in between jobs, you get into a motorcycle wreck, car wreck, and you can't pay for your bills. Well, with a vet life insurance, you can actually borrow against it, take money out, and pay your bills, and then wind up paying yourself back without the penalty fees as you would with other life insurance policies and stuff.
Or even if you had to take, a lien against your house out to help pay those bills, or a second mortgage or something like that, or a home equity line of credit. This allows you to, use your own money that you've built up during your time in service to help offset those costs until you're back on your feet and you have a job again.
Yeah. So tonight we have a great guest. We got Colonel Lou Seelig. He's going to be coming on. This guy, Vietnam veteran. So what do we always tell our Vietnam veterans? Welcome home, which I did that pre-show, but I'm going to go ahead and say it here again. Welcome home, sir.
And they deserve it. Our generation is getting the proper welcome home because their generation fought so hard for, so no one would be treated the way they got treated when they came home.
Yeah.
So, we got our proper welcome home. I mean, my welcome home was my wife and my command, in the hospital room, when I got transported back. But, my guys, when they came back, from Iraq, that welcome home was there, whether it was in Bangor, Maine at the airport when they're coming back stateside, or Lejeune when, their loved ones are there to welcome them home. But so it's their generation. We owe them, a ton of thanks, ton of gratitude, and, their service, their sacrifice has allowed us as veterans of this day and age to, receive that proper welcome home and not be treated like they were.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Lou, I'm not going to call him Colonel because he asked me not to, so I'm going to call him Lou. It says here he is the embodiment of the American dream. He was born into a small town in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, to first-generation immigrant parents. He learned humility and determination while raised as the oldest boy of 9 children from a modest family. 9 children. Holy cow.
I mean, there was 4 in my house, and I was the oldest. I could not imagine 5 more. Not at all.
No, there was 4 of mine, and I was second. My sister was older than I was next, and then 2 younger ones. And holy cow. That's
there was a family where I grew up that the oldest was 2 years younger than me. So I think he was a sophomore my senior year, and then they had a baby, and I want to say there were 10 or 12 of them then. I mean, they had a 40 Econoline 15-pack van that they were rolling in everywhere they went. I mean, I could not imagine, Lou's a little bit older. I couldn't imagine what, they had one of those big station wagons with the seat pointing backwards and kids hanging all over the place because you didn't have to wear a seat belt.
Got them tied to the rack. And
he's going to kill me when he gets on here.
He also learned courage as an infantry platoon leader in Vietnam, being awarded a Purple Heart and Bronze Star. He overcame a below average start at school to become the Comptroller for President Reagan's Missile Defense Program, Star Wars. While a senior fellow at the National Defense University, he wrote a controversial book, Resource Management in Peace and War, predicting Desert Storm 4 years before it occurred. Holy cow. Success has always been a driving factor for Lou, but he found out late in his career that he needed to redefine success. Holy cow. You know what? That's just a snippet of this guy's life, people. Just a snippet. And I think within that snippet there, it tells you everything that you need to know about this man that's getting ready to come up on this screen and talk to us today and let us know what he's doing, what he did as he was growing up to go into the military, what he done after the military, and what he's doing now. So stay tuned. Let's bring Mr. Lou up on the screen. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks, Willis. Hello, Sam. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
So, Mr. Lou, I gave a snippet of your history, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell our watchers, our listeners, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. Before I start, I want to thank both of you for the recognition of the Vietnam veterans. I came back in 1966. I went over with the 1st Infantry Division in 1965. It was the very first division-sized organization that went to Vietnam for offensive operation. And we went over by boat. Took us 22 days on board the USNS Blatchford, and then beach landed in Vung Tau. But I thank you because, as I'd mentioned in the pre-show, I lost 30 to 50% of my entire battalion. That's 150 guys that did not come home. And when I arrived home after 1 year, I landed in the San Francisco airport, dressed in my greens with my uniform and my medals and all, fully expecting to be welcomed as a hero. You know what I got when I entered the airport? People spat at me and they called me a baby killer. So your analogy about what you guys went through and how you were received, to me, helped overcome my feeling. The best day of my life was when I went to Washington, D.C. to see the parade following Desert Storm. The first unit that walked down Pennsylvania Avenue was the 1st Infantry Division, the unit that I was with. The second unit that came down was the 7th Corps that I was stationed with in Germany. So I was proud that the units that I belonged to were the ones who were first accepted and represented during this parade. So it was just absolutely amazing. So with that is sort of an emotional introduction. And I have to tell you that I am emotional because it is getting close to Veterans Day. And it becomes a very, very difficult time for me and many, many other veterans who have had similar experiences. But I was fortunate in the sense that even though I did not do very well at school, I ended up doing very well in military science, and I got a commission out of ROTC from Niagara University. And so I went into the infantry, spent 2.5 years, and then changed branches into the finance corps, where I spent most of my time in financial management. And what my vocation was to change the approach that we have used in financial management and in the projections that we had used for funding the Army. And as you mentioned, the book I wrote when I was at the National Defense University took the Department of Defense to task and said, hey, we're doing things the wrong way. And fortunately, I wrote the book in 1968. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. It was written in 1988. I lose concept of time here. It took them 3 years before they released the book because it was so controversial. But the reason why they released the book is because what I was forecasting was the fall of the Berlin Wall and the start of a low intensity conflict, or not a low intensity conflict, but a conflict resulting in fewer, a smaller location like in the Middle East that would require a lot of other countries to be involved. It turned out to be Desert Storm.
Mm.
So when that happened, they finally released my book for publication because they were, I think, afraid because I was talking out of line. But in either case, I'm just thrilled because I was able to influence the Army in many, many ways. In 7th Corps in Germany, in the Pentagon, where I spent much of my time with the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars program. So it was a fantastic career. So let me leave it at that.
No, you said a mouthful there, and it's just like me and Sam could probably just sit back and listen to you to keep talking, because you have lived a life that most people who join the military can only fathom to a certain extent. For one, you went to Vietnam. You came back from Vietnam, you lost 30 to 50% of your battalion. When you came back home, you didn't get the welcome that you guys deserved so much. You got the shit end of the stick, the raw end of the deal, however you want to look at it. And you guys are just now, within the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, getting the recognition that you guys deserved back then. Which is for me, it's amazing to see that come to fruition, because you guys were what we as infantrymen, whether it's Marine Corps, Army, whatever, you guys were what we looked up to when we came into the service, because you guys, you fought in that jungle warfare during Vietnam, and that's when we started doing our training. It was focused on jungle warfare, and then it slowly transitioned to military operations in urban terrain mount.
Yes, exactly.
Then it transitioned from there to something else. Now they got all kinds of different.
It transitioned from there to the desert, and then back to they called it SASO now, support and stability operations.
And
but
now,
I mean, even some of our senior leaders, whether they were officer or enlisted, we're still wearing, some of the awards and medals from Vietnam, because we came in, Willis and I both came in 97. So we were on that tail end of the Vietnam era Marines. But, I still remember a few of them had, some of the campaign medals and everything from Vietnam. It's like, man, I want to be like that one day. And then as I stayed in and developed more, training and deployed more and received more medals, I was like, man, why did I ever wish this upon myself? Because there's so much to keep up.
The interesting distinction between what you fellows went through and what I went through is the environment. Because when I went over, like I said, I went over as the very first unit deployed to Vietnam for offensive operations. It was a secret operation. I was located in Fort Evans, Massachusetts at the time, and it was actually assigned to the 5th Infantry Division. And the 1st Infantry Division, the Army 1st Infantry Division, I know that there's a Marine Corps 1st Infantry Division, but the Army 1st Infantry Division was at Fort Riley, Kansas. But Fort Riley, Kansas had needed 2-leg battalions to go to Vietnam. So they tapped the 1st Brigade of the 5th Infantry Division to go to Vietnam. And so we simply switched patches and went over. As I mentioned, I went over 22-day cruise on the USNS Blatchford and arrived in Vung Tau and did a beach landing there. From that point on, I never spent a single day in any hard environment. It was either a tent or a foxhole. 90% of the time it was a foxhole. It was so early. They didn't have any time to build the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the guys who went over, all they could do is put up their little pup tent or the poncho and cover themselves because endless rain during the rainy season. We would just strip bare ass naked to take a shower. That's the only way we would ever take a shower.
Mm.
And then we would take what we had on, stick it in our backpack, and take the underwear we had from the previous day and put it on. We would just simply rotate that day after day after day after day. It's not like you got clean underwear every day.
Right.
You didn't get clean underwear but every 6 or 7 days. Then once in a while we'd fly back to a base camp, live under a tent, be able to take a shower from a 55-gallon drum, and that was our experience. Now, I recognize that yours was different because you had some infrastructure, but the war was different. The war that you were fighting was different. It was, I can't imagine it, quite frankly. I really can't. I've never been there, and I have empathy for you. All I can reflect on is what I experienced, and I hope that you can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's not much different because some of your enemy wasn't wearing uniform, much like the guys that we were fighting against weren't wearing a uniform. And then you look at Way City. I mean, I know nothing compares to Way,
Sure.
but it's still urban fighting, urban, terrain.
Exactly.
And you look at the Fallujah, the Ramatis in Iraq, and then you look at some of the stuff in Afghanistan where it's more mountainous, which is more like the Korea
Exactly.
era guys. But yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy how different it is, but how similar it is as well. When it comes to the different areas and eras of conflict, combat, war, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So yeah, like Sam said, our experiences are very similar but very different.
Exactly.
With our combat experience. Like James Thornton, who's a Somalia veteran from Operation Gothic Serpent, otherwise known as Black Hawk Down. He just said none of their enemies was wearing uniforms either. They were wearing civilian clothes.
Right.
And that's sometimes the unknown enemy is the hardest one to battle. And then like you guys over in Vietnam, you had jungle warfare, but you also had house to house sometimes. And in Kuwait and Iraq, you got your desert, and you got your house to house, and then all the tunnels, and it just very similar but very different situations. And we all do this journey of military service differently. I could walk side by side you, and our experience was going to be completely different.
Sure.
And with like PTS and everything else that goes on, the anxiety and stuff like that, that's a lot of times where your experience is different from mine, but yet once we start talking, they're very eerily similar.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. It's
No.
so intense. It's so intense. And getting back to what we were talking about when we first came on, no one who has not gone through that experience would understand it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them to relate to it. And so therefore it's difficult to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even people that served, right? So my son's godfather, still active duty, has been in the air wing his entire time for the Marine Corps, and hasn't experienced what I experienced as an infantry Marine, hasn't experienced what his brother experienced as a combat engineer. And there was one time I started opening up to him, and he just looked at me like I had 5 eyeballs and was like, dude, I don't understand. I don't know what to say. I'm like, I don't need you to understand. I don't need you to say anything. I just need to get this demon out of me and listen to what I have to say.
Exactly.
And I think I got injured in 2005. His brother got injured. I want to say it was 2008, 2009. And listening to my experiences and everything that I went through helped him understand and help his brother when his brother came home, injured with the injuries that he had.
The sad part of PTSD is many guys don't even know they have it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think I was one of them. When I came home, I married my college girlfriend. And we had a couple of kids. And then I was sitting around one day in my parents, my in-laws' house. And one of the kids dropped these M&Ms into a bowl while I was sleeping. You know what that sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
I jumped out of that damn chair like it was an assault.
Yeah.
So the other thing is we went to, and it was probably a mistake, but we as a family went to see the movie Platoon because I wanted them to understand, at least to some extent, the experience of what I had experienced. They actually had to carry me out of the theater. I was so emotional. And at that point, I realized, everything's not right. That I did experience something, and it was an emotional experience. And I'm afraid that there are so many people who've been in the service who experience, or even our first responders for that matter. I don't want to forget them either, who have experienced these things that they may not even understand what they're experiencing. And then all of a sudden it causes conflict. And, I think, Sam, you were talking about you're going through certain programs and things. That's so damned important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you said earlier before we got online that you wanted to honor and take a moment of silence for, your battalion, your 30 to 50%. But before we move into the next section, we're going to take a small break, just a 40-second break, just to honor and remember the fallen from way back when to now, and just to pay that respect. So I'm gonna play two short videos. One's 37, one's 13 seconds.
Thank you.
But I'm just gonna play these little two videos here.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories.
So yeah, I just wanted to pay tribute to all the lives of our brothers and sisters that paid the ultimate sacrifice, just so we can carry on and have the freedoms that we do have here in America. And then I want to say a prayer to all the ones that are still serving, that are still deployed in combat situations. My nephew will be leaving in January.
Really?
To go to an undisclosed location. I kind of know where he's going. I don't like where he's going. Let's just put it that way. It's not a very it's not a vacation spot. Let's put it that way. So if you're the praying type, pray for all of our active duty men and women out there that are going to be away, that are away and getting ready to be deployed. Please say a prayer for them and keep them in your thoughts. So now you have been a very busy guy, Lou. I'm looking at your resume that you sent me, and that's why I kept peeking over here. So in 1967, you wrote a book. It says Volume X, number 4, Saving Deposits, Army Finance Journal. I'm assuming that's like an article.
Yes.
Okay. And then that was in 67. So that must have been Was that before your?
That was right after I came back from Vietnam.
Okay. So that was right after you came back from Vietnam. Yep. And then in 1986, you wrote 2 journal volumes, so another 2 articles. The first one being Resource Management Journal, Volume 7, Number 2, 1986, page 10 to 13. Then you wrote another Resource Management, Volume 7, Number 4, page 12 through 16. Then 89, you wrote, I'm assuming this is another article publication, Controllership, an Expanded View. And then you wrote in 1990, Resource Management in Peace and War, National Defense University. It looks like you had some Vice Admiral J.A. Baldwin wrote the foreword. The introduction was written by Lieutenant General J.F. McCall, Comptroller of the Army. 2021, Need to Succeed, Infused Media. So you've been well published.
Yes,
for a long time.
Yes. The initial publications, as I had mentioned earlier, were to set the stage for changing and improving the resource management process within the Department of the Army and, in fact, the Department of Defense. So those journal articles were leading up to that. The pinnacle of all of that was Resource Management in Peace and War that I wrote when I was at the National Defense University. And that's the one that I had forecasted Desert Storm 3 years before its occurrence. And my message was, we've got to change our process. We've got to change our focus. We've got to get away from the communist boogeyman in the Soviet Union, because it's not that is not our enemy. And as you well know, in 1990 or 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and immediately the Soviet Union unraveled. And in 1990s was Desert Storm occurred. So it was sort of a stepping stone. It was a learning process for me, but it helped, for me to better formulate my ideas.
Yeah. So you currently are working on a dissertation.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about the dissertation you're working on, and then kind of what you're looking for.
Good. And I really appreciate Willis and Sam that you bring me on, because I think this could be very, very helpful. Many veterans, especially post 9/11 veterans, face significant challenges when leaving the services and adjusting to civilian life. It's essential for us in a society to understand and empathize with these difficulties. A Blue Star family survey of military families found that more than half of the men and 2/3 of the female respondents described the transition as either difficult or very difficult. This underscores the need for better support and understanding for our veterans. Some veterans continue to struggle with underemployment and dissatisfaction with their pay for up to 4 years after leaving the military. According to a recent survey done by researchers from the Clearinghouse at Penn State University, transitioning from the military to civilian life presents numerous challenges for veterans. One of the most significant is underemployment. Now, what I mean by that is that they have wealth of skills and experience, that they find their jobs are not fully utilized, and their capabilities are not properly compensated. And it comes time for us to shift our perspective. Rather than seeing veterans as a group of requiring social support or entitlements and resources, we have to recognize them as valuable assets. Veterans are crucial contributors to our communities and organizations. They possess transferable skills that are highly valuable and applicable to various job positions in industries. They're soft skills like communications, teamwork, adaptability, time management, critical thinking, which can be cultivated through work experience and education or other activities, or testimony to their potential that has to be appreciated. Now, employers highly value these skills and attribute the veterans bring to the table according to the National Association of Colleges and Employees. Employers rank significantly recognized and appreciate leadership qualities, strong work ethic, problem-solving abilities, and capability to cooperate in a team that veterans possess. Their skills are crucial for candidates to highlight in their resumes. Furthermore, veterans have to undergo military training and acquire a diverse set of valuable skills that are directly attributable to civilian careers. These skills include leadership, teamwork, communications, problem solving, adaptability, flexibility, and the ability to perform effectively under pressure. So, my dissertation explores the multifaceted issue of veteran underemployment, examining the causes and the impacts and the potential solutions.
Yeah, I think that one of the hardest things for veterans to do is take those intangible traits that we learn, right? Whether it's professional development, the pride belonging to something, the communication skills, whatever it is, and translating in a resume what that means to the employer that they're applying for, because communication skills can mean something different depending on your employer, right? And I think that's probably the hardest part. And then a lot of them, the separations class, the transition classes, the retirement seminars are all vague. When I got out, it was, hey, Gunny, it's not 1500 anymore, it's 3 p.m.
Right.
Okay, that's not hard to understand. I get it. But when I punch a time clock, guess what it says? 1500.
Yep.
Because most employers work off a 24-hour clock when it comes to the pay, because it's easier to calculate how many hours you work during that day. So I mean, and then of course, like for me, I'm different than a lot, because I had roughly 2 weeks from the time that my paperwork came back to the time they said, oh, by the way, Gunny, you're retired. Here's the door. I didn't have time to look for a job. I didn't have time to set my resume up or anything like that. I mean, I knew it was happening, right? It was a 2-year process. So I knew sometime within that 2-year time period that my paperwork come back. There was no heads up of, hey, your paperwork will be back next week. You need to start preparing yourself. And there's a lot of younger service members that is still happening to, that they're getting medically separated, medically retired for whatever, that didn't spend 10 plus years, 14 plus years in the service, that they might have spent 2 or almost 4, but they still have those traits, and they're not taught how to translate that. They're not taught to recognize, oh, I was a fire team leader, so I was in charge of 3 people, but I also maintained their weapons. I also maintained their gear. I always made accountability of everything, cleanliness, all that stuff that you can translate into that resume. And they're not taught that. They're not even taught that at the separations. They're not taught that at retirement seminars or anything.
Sam, I agree with you absolutely 100%. But I also want to put some of the burden on private industry. They have to learn what you just said.
Yeah.
If they're not willing to learn what you just said, we're not going to move forward very well. You can't put the entire burden on the veteran. Now, I think it was from K.Y. Valor. I don't remember where I heard this quote, but what are the 3 most difficult experiences you would have as an individual? Losing your job, having to move and losing your house.
Yeah.
A veteran loses that on the same day.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you think you heard that from KY Valor?
I saw that from one of the videos. I don't a video that they had as an introduction.
Okay, it might have been KY Valor because that's one of the people that that I'm going to introduce you with. And
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and get you in contact with the team at KY Valor and in vets, and because they work with transitioning service members who are getting out now, and you're looking to interview 10 to 15 veterans that have been out 10 years or less.
Yeah, preferably 5 years or less. But you're exactly right, Willis. What the nature of my thesis is that I want to better understand what causes the veteran to be underemployed. You know, it's the kind of things we were talking about.
Yeah.
I want to be able to put some concrete substance and evidence to that I could publish it and go to companies and say, hey, unless you recognize what a veteran is and what they're capable of,
yeah,
you are missing the boat. I mean, the soft skills that a veteran has when they come out of the service far supersede by enormous magnitudes anybody who they're going to hire off the street.
Yeah. Or out of college, because you don't learn those skills.
Exactly. You're exactly right, Sam.
So a prime example of that, there was a veteran or military member who was transitioning out, applied for a job at UPS. They're like, well, we're going to start you as just a regular warehouse employee. Right now, this guy was supplying and a logistics officer. So, you know, he's the one that made sure the troops are where they were at, ammo was where it was at, food was where it needed to be. He did all this. He did all this for the Army for 20 years.
Under stress.
Right. So he got connected with KY Valor. They rewrote his resume. They redid all this to make it legit. When he went back to UPS, and before he left that day, he was offered the top job for their warehouse distribution, blah, blah. So he, instead of being just a regular warehouse employee, now he's the top dog. He's the boss.
Yeah.
And like Sam said, it's hard for us because we're not taught to translate our skills that we learned while we were in the military over into the civilian sector. When I got out the first time in 2001, my chain of command pretty much left us alone. We did whatever we needed to do to turn gear and stuff in, but we didn't have no class saying, hey, you're getting out. See you later. Bye. This is what you need to do.
Yep.
We didn't get that. And then when I got recalled back in and got out in 2004, the second time, I think I had maybe a 1-day class.
Yeah.
And that was it. And, you know, here I am, I'm losing my job. I'm losing my home. I'm losing my identity. I'm losing my suits, my purpose, my daily.
And you have to move.
Yeah, and you have to move back to square one where you started off from, or start somewhere else. And it was terrifying.
I bet.
And, you know, luckily I did have a good support system when I got out. Now I did lose that sense of camaraderie. I did lose that sense of purpose.
Yes.
I did find a job right away, but that job didn't fulfill what I needed. It didn't fulfill that. So I love that you're doing a dissertation of the effects and the stressfulness of transitioning out into today's civilian sector from the military, because today, after 2018, you know, because they passed that law in 2018 where whatever your job skills were in the military now translates to the civilian sector, which they didn't have that when I got out.
Right.
And I want to see this. I want to see your dissertation, your thesis on this, because should be a lot of concrete evidence in there, especially if you get enough veterans.
Yeah.
I've already talked to a few guys that said, "Hey, I've been out less than 5 years. I will gladly be interviewed." And these guys are chiefs in the Navy. You know, they're
Great.
high ranking
Great.
staff commissioned officers. And but so the colonel is looking for 10 to 15 veterans. I did put his email in the chat. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen again. So it's LCC at AOL.com.
Yeah. And I certainly do appreciate that, Willis, because
you're very welcome.
I'm passionate about this. As you well know, I spent 26 years in the Army.
Yeah.
And I love the Army. And I love the United States of America. And I want to help the veterans as best I can. If this is what little I can do, God, I want to do it well.
There you go.
So I have a question real quick. So looking at these guys and girls that are getting out now, right? So it's 2024. Some of them may have joined as a result of 9/11, right? So you're looking at 23 years.
Yes.
That these young men and women have been in for their first, I don't know, 18 years. It was fast-paced combat deployments with all these stresses. Now they're getting out, and that pace slows down. The stress isn't there as much. I mean, finding a new job is stressful. Being in a new corporation, new company is stressful, no matter what you're doing. Do you think that there's a tie there with the undervaluing or underperforming with going from fast pace to a slower pace to having the stresses and everything like that?
I do, Sam. When I left the military, I intentionally did not join one of the Beltway bandits because I didn't want to be one of those guys who's a retiree who's double dipping. So I joined a telecommunications company and earned the job. It was quite different. The social environment was different. The language was, the entire culture is so incredibly different. So for somebody to transition from the environment of the military to civilian life, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the veteran who's got to change.
Yeah.
Private industry has to change. They have to change. They have to recognize what a veteran is and what talents that they have and be able to accommodate them. Maybe a mentoring program. Maybe there's another veteran that they have that they can bring them on board with and help them walk through the steps, change their language. When if I asked you a question and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do that. In the military, you say, Wilco.
Yeah.
So if you said that in the private industry, they'd probably get pissed.
I mean, my boss is a former Army Ranger, was an SF medic, and the team was founded by a bunch of Army guys. And we're probably 50-50 of military and civilian. And I still say Roger when somebody asks me a question, or
exactly.
even in a text thread or anything like that. But on the other hand, a lot of these guys still call me Gunny. I've been retired for 13 years now.
Sure.
But it's just like Colonel. It's one of those ranks that's very respected. Whether sure. Because you look at any Marine Corps movie, and most of the guys that are there are gunnies, right? And then you look at the Army, and it's all privates.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate.
That respect that they have just for the rank, and
precisely,
and everything that I went through as a serviceman, everything that you've gone through as a colonel and in Vietnam, and Willis asked earlier, do I call you Colonel? Do I call you Lou? What do you call it? Because we still hold that rank in high regard.
Exactly. Officially, you still hold that rank.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll always have that rank. You earned it, just like Sam earned Gunny, just like I earned Sergeant. You still earn that degree of respect of your rank,
Exactly.
and that's like people that I hang out with on the daily. Chief Warrant Officer Cletus Evans. I still call him sir, even though he's like, call me Cletus. I'm like, yes, sir. You know, it just it's one of those
Yep.
things. I was taught manners and respect at a very young age, and that transition into military, and I still carry that on. Even my kids nowadays, they yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and they respect that as well. And if you hear my dogs, they're just got home with groceries, but that's why I asked you at the beginning. Hey, do I call you Colonel? Do I call you what? What do you want me to call you?
I do appreciate that.
So you're looking for 10 to 15 veterans to interview. The email is up on the screen right now. lcseelig@aol.com. So if you're watching this live right now, or if you're going to watch it later, or if you're going to listen to it on Reach Across America Radio, send Lieutenant Colonel. I see LC. I know. Send Colonel Seelig an email at lcseelig@aol.com. That's LCSEELIG@aol.com. And say, hey, I saw or heard you on HomeFront Sitrep podcast. I just recently transitioned out of the military. I'd love to be interviewed. And a colonel will get back with you and get you interviewed. Sounds like World War III up there.
Good. I appreciate it, and I think both of you are doing a great service to our servicemen and women, and I do appreciate it. And thank you, especially upcoming Veterans Day.
Yes, sir.
You as well. Thank you.
And like we said earlier in the show, welcome home. Now, I will tell you, the city of Shepherdsville next year on Vietnam Veterans Day is going to host a Vietnam Veterans Day parade. It's the first one that it has been in the state of Kentucky. I'm super honored to be part of that and to navigate that, just so the Vietnam veterans here in our state can be honored and welcome home the proper way.
Yeah, we used to jump pre-COVID. There's a place down near Clarksville, Tennessee, I think, had a welcome home Vietnam veterans event every year, and we would jump in for it every single year. And then COVID happened, and I don't know if that committee went away or whatever, but we still do the veterans event down there in Clarksville every year around Memorial Weekend.
Well, thank you for that, and I thank you for me personally and for all of the fellows who have predeceased me.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Well, sir, you have a great night, and I'm going to be sending you some emails, if not tonight, tomorrow, and getting you connected with some people that I already know that are ready to be interviewed by you. And then I'm also going to get you connected with some other veteran podcasters as well to get you on there to help spread out the message of what you're wanting, what you're looking for. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on HomeFront Sitrep and hanging out with us for this hour. It's been our honor.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, sir. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Sam, how cool was that?
How do you follow that? How do you follow that?
Bro, it's hard.
But it's funny is he came from small town America, which is where a lot of veterans come from.
Yep.
Right. And the Army helped transform his life to where he is today and do everything that he is doing today. Right. And I came from small town USA, and here I am, fill-in co-host with you on the podcast, but doing everything I do with the team and, the nonprofit work that I have done and continue to do. And, just that we talked about it the other day when we were talking about the post-traumatic stress is, part of that growth is finding your new thing, grasping the whole of it to help you find your new direction and your new sense of purpose, and to help you grow not only within yourself, but help others grow too. And he's doing that with, the dissertation, with everything that he's doing, everything that he has done, and
Yeah.
everything that he will continue to do. So, I mean, it's just, it's a unique story, but it's not, because there's so many great life events and stories that have happened from small town America to where the people are today. Right. And it's amazing. And he's an amazing man. And I can't wait to see the results of his dissertation and see where it goes from there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And literally, I could have sat there and just listened to him carry on telling stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when we were with 2-8, we had the opportunity to go meet the Frozen Chosen Marines.
Yeah.
that came to 2-8, and just to hear their stories. For one, I'm a history nut anyway. I love history. But just to hear their stories and how different each one of their experience was.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And unfortunately, we're losing. We don't have many World War II veterans left. We don't have that many Vietnam veterans left. Or Korea. And we need to be able to keep their story alive. And like I said earlier, as long as we keep mentioning them, their memory will never fade. But we also need to keep their story alive. And Colonel Lou Seelig has a amazing story.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of times it starts out in small town USA. And that's like the song we played at the beginning of the show. I didn't even bring it up until just now. Derek Thompson is his name. He's an Army veteran. Wrote that song. It will be released this Friday. So you heard it first, sneak peek here on Homefront Sitrep. So you can go follow Derek Thompson music on all streaming platforms. He's an independent artist. He hasn't signed with the record label or anything. But man, it's an amazing song. And I was like, it's one I could hear on the radio today. But to follow Lieutenant Colonel, or not Lieutenant Colonel, I don't know why I want to keep saying Lieutenant Colonel.
It's because the LC in front of his name is
I'm
throwing you off.
I'm gonna go thrash myself when I get off of here, just because I keep screwing up his rank.
Well, you're gonna thrash yourself just walking up the steps anyway. So that's
right. So like I mentioned, Homefront Sitrep is a proud partner with Wreath Across America Radio. You can find Homefront Sitrep on Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can find it at Wreath Across America Radio / or wreathacrossAmerica.org/radio. You can find it in the TuneIn app, the Audacity app, and the iHeartRadio. So I'm gonna play that little video real quick. Hey, it's Willis. Join Candace and I from Homefront Sitrep on Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on Wreath Across America Radio. You can find Wreath Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Audacity app, and TuneIn app. Search the word Wreath. So yeah, go check us out on Wreath Across America Radio. You can also check us out on heroesmediagroup.com. We are part of Veterans Voice Radio and Military United podcast stream. So check us out on all those platforms. Make sure you like, share, follow, subscribe. Look me up on TikTok. I've been doing a lot of TikTok since I've been laid up. It's at Homefront Willis on TikTok. Just go check me out there. I try to bring in veteran related stuff when I do my lives on there. Like today we had 6 people up in the boxes, and we were talking about a little bit of everything from VA disability to veteran legislative things that are going on in Texas to you name it. We were talking about it. And like I said, it was going to be a 30-minute live, turned out to be almost a 2-hour live. So definitely check us out on all of our streaming platforms. If you're a veteran and you're in crisis, 988-1. You can go online. You can chat with them online. You can call them. You can text them. If you don't like the person you're chatting with, just hang up and call back. And then, so let's play that video. All right, Mr. Sam, it's that time of night, my friend.
Yeah.
It was a great show. I don't know. It's hard to going to follow that one up with the Colonel.
Well, I mean, the good thing is we're following it up with a bunch of Marines on the Marine Corps birthday next Sunday.
Yes.
So I mean, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to follow up, but there will be a lot of shenanigans going on.
Yes.
I got my crayons close so I can shout out on my crayons.
Hey, mine's right there. I got them ready.
So no, next Sunday is gonna be great. Just a bunch of Marines being Marines on the Marine Corps birthday. So I expect you to have some cake in front of you, and then your favorite beverage of choice for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I will be drinking some good old water, some H2O aqua.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, that's what I've been drinking on here. A little orange flavored water. But yeah,
water flavored water.
There you go. So we do have an open show on Sunday and Monday. So Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday, both open shows. I will post a link in chat to bring in other Marine Corps veterans on the Marine Corps birthday. But you have to be a Marine Corps veteran. You can't be an Army guy. You can't be a Navy guy. You have to be a Marine to get up on the screen.
What about a corpsman? I mean, we got a lot of corpsmen in.
As long as they were green side.
Yeah,
they can't be white side. They have
that blue side stuff or white
side
stuff now.
Yeah, and then on Veterans Day, it's going to be another open show. We're going to bring in whoever wants to get up and talk, about events that they went to that day. Whether they went to a Veterans Day parade, whether they went to Mission Barbecue to get their free sandwich, their free meal that day. So be ready. Next week's going to be fun.
I hope I'm back from Philly in time. We're flying out in our little plane. We get the jump at noon, and then we're flying back in the little plane. So it should only be a 3-hour ride out, 3-hour ride back, and then it's an hour from the shop back here. So hopefully I'm back in time for next Sunday for the Marine Corps birthday.
There you go. I will be playing.
I can't live stream from the plane. So.
Right. I will be doing the Marine Corps birthday message at the beginning of the show. So we probably might not have an intro that day. It'd probably just be the Marine Corps birthday message.
That's the perfect intro for that day.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the perfect intro for that day. But other than that, it's going to be a fun week coming up. I do go start my PT at the hospital coming up on Wednesday. I do have PT coming here tomorrow to finish up my in-home health care. My knee still unable to bend properly, but it's bending. I'm at 75% or 75 degrees, however they measure. So I'm getting there. I'm able to, walk unassisted without a cane or a walker or whatever. But when I go to the VA hospital, I will take I think I'm going to take one crutch with me just to keep for stability purposes.
Yeah. Well, those floors are a little slick, man. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to take, one crutch with me just to be on the safe side. And then I go back the 14th, and I should have the staples removed on the 14th. And then that's when the real PT starts.
Yep.
I start pushing and pushing and pushing. The more I can utilize my right knee, the better. But we'll get there. So keep praying for me, because my wife hasn't kicked me down the steps yet. But just keep praying for me. And Sam, take us out, my friend.
All right. Like we always say on HomeFront Sitrep, we got your 6.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.